You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of wait for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is DreBaldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to be a bold marketer. How to be bold in your marketing and how to put yourself out there in a way that is going to get people to actually listen to you and pay attention to you, and maybe, if you're lucky, get them to actually take action on what you want them to do. We'll get into that in a minute. First, let me tell everyone I have a daily motivation text that I send out free of charge every single day to everyone who's in my text community. This message is guaranteed to keep you focused, sharp, and on point. If you want to receive that message, just text me at my number, which is 305-384-6894. And when I send out the next daily motivation, because you are on my list, you will be a recipient. Now, let's get into the topic. And also, oh yeah, one more thing I should tell you is go to WorkOnYourGame.net when you listen to me right now, and I'm going to give you 24-hour access, a 24-hour access pass to my new training, how to increase your income without killing yourself in the process. Any of you who feels like you are running on a treadmill just to make the money that you're making now, even if it's good money, and you're wondering how can I get to the next level of income without basically running myself off the treadmill. How do you get out of that tactical hell and start being strategic and systematic about how you're running your business? I can help you with that. Go to WorkOnYourGame.net. Get in and listen to the free training. At the end of the training, I'll tell you how to get on a call with me. We can talk about how we can map that out for you. Again, that's WorkOnYourGame.net. The link to that and my text number are both in the description of this episode. Now, the definition of bold, or definition, actually, before we get to bold, let's get a definition of marketer, because that's the topic here today, being a bold marketer. A person or company that advertises or promotes something. That's all marketing is, advertising and promoting something. Understand that we are all in the business of marketing in some form. Some of us are doing it consciously and on purpose, and some of us are doing it unconsciously and pretty much by accident. So even if you don't consider yourself a salesperson or an entrepreneur, you are still in the marketing business, because at a basic level, we are all selling ourselves all the time. And because it's so easy for anybody to market themselves these days, you need a way to make your marketing stand out from everyone else's, because otherwise you'll just get lost in the abyss. So any of you who considers yourself to not be a marketer, or you abhor marketing, or you're just not into marketing, or you don't want to do anything that looks, sounds, or smells like marketing, I would suggest that you change your idea about that. Today's episode is going to help you towards that end, because if you want anyone to know that you exist, if you want them to know that your offer or your service or your product could actually help them, then you probably want to do some marketing in your thing. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem of nobody knowing who you are. And it's hard to get people to do what you want them to do when they don't even know that you or your product or your service even exists. So you need a way to make your marketing stand out from everybody else's. That's the topic here today. So let's get into it. How to be a bold marketer. In other words, a marketer who stands out in such a way that you make people pay attention to you. Number one, say, do, or be what others are unwilling to say, do, or be. This is one way that you can market yourself. Figure out what is not being said, what is not being done, or what is not being represented in the marketplace, at least amongst your peer group, and be that. Represent it. You may think that every idea that's possible has already been thought of. This is absolutely not true. There's always a new idea. It's just, and sometimes a new idea is just a combination of the ideas that already exist, or it's someone bringing back, revitalizing an idea that was out, but then it kind of went out of style, went out of vogue. Nobody's been talking about it for years, and now here you go, bringing that old idea back. So there's always a new way to do an idea, or a new idea to be created by currently existing ideas. In fact, there are many ideas that have been thought of many times, but not in the way, they haven't been executed on in a way that you have yet, simply because some people have an apprehension about executing on certain ideas. Some people have an apprehension about doing certain things that maybe they've looked at it as taboo, or maybe they think it's beneath them, maybe they think it's too far above them, maybe they think it's too far to the left or to the right of where they are, so they don't want to put that thing out there. You can take that idea, and if you're willing to use it, you're willing to execute on it, you can take advantage of this you take advantage of everybody else's apprehension. So you don't necessarily have to be the smartest person in the room to have a brand new idea. You just have to be the person who is willing and able to execute on an idea that maybe other people have thought about, but they simply didn't do it. To give you an example here, because many times the opportunity is simply in the execution of a thing, is not in the fact that you thought of it, is in the fact that you executed on it when everybody else thought of it too, but they didn't do anything. So I know people who are in the fitness industry, and let's say 15 years ago ish, there are people I know in the fitness industry who would talk about things like, you know what, it would be great if, and this is right when, you know, YouTube was starting to become a thing, they would say things like, no, wouldn't it be cool if people could have a set of workouts on video that they could just, you know, they could log in on a website, and the workouts that they purchase, they can see their workouts and they can just follow the workouts at home and just do the workouts on their own. Wouldn't it be a cool thing for people to do? I know people in the fitness industry who were talking about this in 2008. They were saying things just like what I just described. The thing is, they never acted on it, and or they didn't act on it, whether it's because they were afraid, whether it's because they were lazy, whether it's because they didn't have the infrastructure or the technology, or they didn't know where to begin. For whatever reason, they didn't act on these ideas. Now all this time has gone by, and now this that I just described is a normal thing. Right now it's a normal thing for somebody to have an app, and you go on the app store, download their app, they give you a bunch of workouts for free, then they have a paywall, you can buy workouts. That's a normal thing now for somebody to sell workouts through an app. But I knew people who were talking about this over 10 years ago, but they never executed on it and did anything about it. So it's not that the people who have apps now came out with some brand new idea. It's just the fact that they executed on the idea, whereas other people might have thought of it, but didn't do anything with it. So not executing on an idea leaves that idea available for anybody else to execute on it if they want to do it. So bold doesn't always have to be something new. Sometimes it simply means something that is done. It is just executed on rather than just thought about. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to be a bold marketer. Say the quiet part out loud. All right, this is something that can make you a bold marketer, is just taking the part that everybody else is thinking about and you actually saying it. You actually expressing the thing that nobody else is really willing to say. This is something that politicians do all the time. Politicians are great at this. Musicians and entertainers are great at this as well, and many influencers. All of us have thoughts. All right, we all think about things all the time. Think about how many things you think about, but you don't actually say. Because for whatever reason, maybe you don't want to offend anybody, maybe you don't want to ruffle any feathers, maybe you're not sure how it's going to come across, so you think it, but you don't actually say anything. Now, we all have these. All right, socialization teaches us explicitly and implicitly that there are certain thoughts that we have that maybe should just remain as thoughts. All right, there's certain things like, all right, I'm thinking that, but I'm just going to leave it as a thought. And you know, as the old saying goes, you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all, and you're not sure what you're going to say is going to be taken as good or something else, then you just keep it to yourself. All right, socialization has taught us this. This is one of the reasons why we have civilization, because sometimes we think things that may be, you know, flammable, inflammatory statements, so we just keep it to ourselves and don't say anything, and that's actually a good thing in some cases. However, the bold marketers are the people who stand out simply by ignoring conventional ideas, and they will say or express out loud what a certain population is already thinking, but that population has not yet said. And again, if you look at politicians, or you look at very popular politicians on any side of the political conversation, this is one of the main things that they do. They take something that a bunch of people have been thinking, or at least some directionally how they're thinking, and they voice it and they say it out loud, and this actually works for them. And the most popular politicians who you can name, whether you like them or not, they all do this very well. This is how people grab attention and build followings. They take stuff and they start saying it. And again, this is not limited to politics. I'm just using politics because the political people who I can name, they are people that everybody knows who they are. But online influencers do this exact same thing. At least those who are, they build their influence through their intellectual property, things that they're saying out of their mouths. You look at somebody like in 2016, Donald Trump. He took what a lot of Americans, not all of them, but what a lot of Americans were thinking about illegal immigrants and how illegal immigrants are taking jobs from, you know, Americans who were born in America, and he basically said it out loud. Now, did everybody agree with him? Absolutely not. But were there a percentage of the population who agreed with what he was saying. There absolutely was, and that's one of the ways that some of those people became his fans. Again, it doesn't matter if you think it is right or wrong. I'm saying that he voiced their thoughts, and that's why they started to follow him. That's the reason why some of his audience became his audience. They thought it, they wanted to say it, but what he did was say it with a big megaphone. He said it to a whole bunch of people at the same time, and he had the balls to say it and wasn't worried about the pushback. And that's why other people were going to get behind him. You think of somebody like Adolf Hitler back in Germany. He did the exact same thing. He said negative things about anybody who was not Aryan, anybody who wasn't of his ilk, and he talked down on those people. Were there other people who thought that way? Absolutely there were, because as soon as he said it out loud, a whole bunch of people got behind him and said, you know what, I agree with that too. And a lot of bad things happened behind that. And again, I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong for him to have done it. The whole point is he voiced an opinion that a bunch of people already had, and the fact that he was willing to say it out loud built him a following. You would think of someone contemporary, think of someone like Ibram Kendi, who wrote the book on anti-racism. He did it with an anti-racist material. He took this whole concept, redefined a word. He basically shut down the dictionary and said, I'm going to ignore the dictionary. I'm coming up with my own definition for this word that everyone had pretty much agreed what it meant. Came with his own definition, and he said what a bunch of people were thinking, and they followed him because he was voicing their thoughts, or he is voicing their thoughts. Again, some of these people I agree with, some of these people I disagree with. When it comes to influencers and politicians who are out there, this is not an argument of agree or disagree or right or wrong. It's an argument of what worked and why it worked. So all of you out there, whether any of these names are triggering for you, whether you like these people, don't like them, heard of them, never heard of them, understand it doesn't matter. It's not about that. All right, you need to be able to separate how you think or your opinion about someone from whether what they're doing is working or not working, and why it's working or not working, because maybe something that you can glean from it and use to your own ends if you understand what is happening. But you got to separate your emotions from your logic here to understand it. So these are all examples of solid marketing. Again, whether you think the outcomes were worth it or not, this is all solid marketing because they are voicing what other people are thinking. Point number 3, today's topic once again is how to be a bold marketer. Smack people in the face with the truth such that they cannot ignore the truth. If you want to move someone to action, you have to tell them whatever the truth is, or voice what they believe their truth is. Even though I did an episode that says no such thing as my truth, there's only the truth. Just because I said it doesn't mean everybody in the world is going to stop thinking that they have their truth. All right, I am a believer that there's no such thing as my truth. But there are people out there who, despite the fact that I said that, still believe that there is their truth versus no, everything else is going on out there. If you want to get somebody's attention, smack them in the face with the truth, or give them some other version of their personal truth such that they cannot ignore it. In other words, you just got to get into people's heads. That's what good marketers do. They get into the heads of the people whom they wish to influence. Human beings, we are masters of rationalization. What does it mean to rationalize? To rationalize means to make up a story in our heads that makes things seem better or worse than they actually are. That's what it means to rationalize. It's just come up with a story. It's kind of like if I'm 20 pounds overweight and I come up with a story that says, well, look, being 20 pounds overweight is not that bad because, you know, my neighbor 3 doors down, he's 60 pounds overweight, so at least I'm not as bad as he is. Or I'll say something like, well, look, I'm 20 pounds overweight, but hey, I used to be an athlete, so I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, when people get older, they usually gain weight anyway, so it's not that bad that I've gained weight. That's what everybody else does when they get older too, they gain weight too. So how is it such a bad thing that I've gained weight? That's rationalizations. Me coming up with a story that makes the situation that if I was looking at it objectively, I'd probably say this needs to be fixed. But rationalization allows me to feel okay with the situation that, objectively speaking, probably would not be okay. That's what human beings, we do this all day, every day. We rationalize. We create stories in our minds that make things seem okay, even though they're probably not okay. All right, and we are experts at this. Every one of us is an expert at this. Our entire reality, each one of us, our reality is based on the stories that we tell ourselves. It's not based on objectivity. It is not based on what's actually happening in our lives. It's based on the stories we tell ourselves about what's happening in our lives. This is how two people can experience the exact same thing but come up with completely different conclusions as to what happened and why it happened. And if you could ask two different people to explain the situation, and when they both went through the exact same situation, to get two completely different stories, even though they both went through the exact same thing. Why is this? Because of rationalization. Person A tells themselves one story, and person B tells themselves a completely different story, even though they experience the same thing. Have you ever seen this happen? Of course you have. Have you ever been in an argument with a person over a situation that both of you experience? The reason that the argument happens often is because you two are telling yourselves completely different stories about what just happened, and this is where the conflict comes in. You have one story, they got a different story, but y'all both experience the same thing. And the truth is usually somewhere in between each person's story. But we are all masters at this rationalization. Again, this is how we experience the same things, but look at it completely different ways. A bold marketer, what they do is they challenge and stomp on people's rationalizations. Basically, you stop letting people lie to themselves. Any of you who works as a coach, or you do anything that involves personal development or even professional development, one of the main things you have to be really good at is beating up people's rationalizations. Because if you can't knock down somebody's bullshit rationalizations, i.e. the stories they are telling themselves, they will go on telling themselves the story and not getting the outcome, not getting the result that they need. Your job, if you're in personal development, is to point out people's rationalizations, throw them on the ground and stomp on them, stomp out not the people, but the rationalizations, such that they can stop lying to themselves and they can actually face the truth, which you are going to help them improve. All right, that's your job. So don't stomp on their rationalizations and leave them there. You stomp on their rationalizations so that you can help them create a better truth and stop telling themselves a lie, which is their truth versus the truth. Any marketing course or any lesson any of you ever take on marketing will tell you that it's much more effective to garner attention from a person by pointing out their problem than offering them a solution. Now, while you're going to do both, of course, if you want to get someone's attention, the first thing you got to do is point out where their pain is, because human beings are hardwired to take more action to avoid or alleviate pain than we are to chase or move towards pleasure. This is just the wiring of human beings. Why this is, I wouldn't sign up for the class of why this is. I would just tell you that it is what it is. So if you want to get somebody's attention, everybody, you heard what I said here? Talk about their problems, because that will get their attention more acutely than if you talk about the possibilities of their success. So for example, go back to the weight loss example, which was a simple one that everyone can understand. If I'm trying to sell personal training, I'm not going to talk to people about how you're going to have six-pack abs and your husband or wife is going to look at you with the same eyes that they gave you back when you first met in high school, or how you're going to feel so great and have a whole bunch of energy every day. Even though all of those things are going to happen, here's what I'm going to talk about instead. I'm going to talk about how you went to tie your shoes yesterday and you couldn't see your shoelaces while you were tying your shoes because your stomach is so big. Or I'm going to talk about how your husband or wife, you two were at the mall last weekend and your husband or wife was looking at other men or women right there in front of you and you noticed it and it made you feel like shit. Or I'm going to talk about how you walked up the steps yesterday at work and you were damn near out of breath after walking up one flight of steps because your ass has gained 30 pounds over the last 10 years and you didn't even notice that it happened. Or how your kid wanted to go to the park and your kid wanted to run around and you ran like 10 steps and you damn near had a heart attack because you're not in shape anymore. See, those things will get your attention. The second group of points than the first one. Why? Because human beings are wired to address pains more than we are wired to chase pleasure. It doesn't mean people don't chase pleasure, but we're more moved to action when we notice our pains. This is just what it is. So use this for what it's worth. I'm not going to tell you how good it's going to feel to run a 5K or how you can fit into your old high school prom dress, even though you will be able to do those things. Those are not going to move you to action as well as if I point out the real truth and the real pains that you're going through. The sting of pain moves people action faster. So if you want to move somebody to action, then notice these things. You need to figure out what they are, and then you got to point them out to people. And not everybody's going to be moved by this, by the way. Don't think that just because you did this is a magic bullet and everybody's going to take action. But if you want to move people to action, this is the best way to do it. So let's recap today's class, which is how to be a bold marketer. Definition of a marketer is a person or company that advertises or promotes something, and we are all in the business of marketing in some form. Again, even if you're not a salesperson or even if you're not a business owner, you're still marketing something. You just get hired for a job, you got to market yourself. To get a date, you have to market yourself. You have friends, you have to market yourself. So everything's marketing. So point number one, do or be or say what other people are willing to do, be, or say. These are things that people are thinking but they haven't said out loud. All right, if you're willing to do that, you can get a lot of attention. Point number 2, say the quiet part out loud. For the things that people usually keep to themselves, when you're willing to say it out loud, that's when you can separate yourself from the crowd. And this usually is not that hard to do. Just think of the things that you have held back and not said because you're trying to be polite, or you don't want to be rude, or you don't want to offend anybody. You want to be a marketer, you're probably going to offend some people, because in saying the things that your target audience wants to hear, you're going to say some things that your non-target audience, like the people who are absolutely not your customers, they don't want to hear. So every time you offend one of them, you are getting the attention and the favor of somebody who is in your target audience. But you got to be willing to do it. Look at somebody like Donald Trump. He played this card to perfection when he ran his campaign in 2016. He said a bunch of things that offended a bunch of people, but every person he offended, he gained himself 10 new followers. All right, that's the way that it works. And you must be willing to do this. This is a marketing tactic. And I'm not, actually, let me not say you must be willing to do it, but depending on the line of work that you're in, doing this may be the trump card, no pun intended, that can help separate you from everybody else who is in your sphere. Number 3, smack people in the face with the truth such that they cannot ignore it. This is another version of saying the quiet part out loud, because again, it's easy for me to say you'll have 6-pack abs and you'll be in great shape. Anybody will be willing to say that, but are you willing to say, look, you're so fat that you can't even run around with your 3-year-old, or you can't even walk up a flight of steps, or you're a couple Big Macs away from a heart attack, or you can't even see your shoes when you're going to get dressed in the morning because your stomach got so big. I say, are you willing to say that part? See, anybody can say, I'll help you get in shape and get 6-pack abs. That's easy to say. But are you willing to say the quiet part out loud? That's when you become a bold marketer. And understand that this bold marketing is what will get people's attention, and it will gain the respect of people who want to be told the truth. Now, understand, there's a certain percentage of the population out there who does not want to be told the truth, no matter how harsh it is, and no matter how accurate it is, they don't want to hear it. But you have to decide, who do you want to serve? Do you want to serve people who want to be told the truth? Do you want to serve people who want to be told some bullshit? And understand, there's a healthy population of both. Now, I'm not saying that one is right or wrong. There's a healthy population of people who want to be told some bullshit, and they will gladly keep showing up. You keep telling them that. Kind of like if you pet a dog, how they never move from beside your feet. So you just got to decide who you want to serve and how you want to serve them, which should be based on just your personality and what you're willing to put out there. So all that said, text me to get my daily motivation. My number is 305-384-6894, and go to WorkOnYourGame.net so you can access. This is for the serious business people out there who want to get to the next level. You want to take the next step when it comes to building your business and building your finances. You do that by going to WorkOnYourGame.net, and I'm going to tell you how you can increase your income to the next level without running yourself into the ground. Any of you who feels like you're already running on a treadmill to do what you're doing in business, and you're wondering, all right, how am I going to make more money without having to turn the speed up on this treadmill? I'm already running as fast as I can. I'm going to tell you how we can get off the treadmill and how you can continue to make more money and do it strategically while actually putting forth less effort but producing more results. And yes, there is a way to do this. And no, it is not some hocus pocus magic trick. We just got to get strategic about what we're doing. So go there. It's a 45-minute presentation. You watch the whole thing. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to tell you how you can schedule a call with me so we can talk about where you're at, where you want to go, and how we can do that strategically. All of that is happening at this link, WorkOnYourGame.net. Not .com, .net. WorkOnYourGame.net. The link is down below in the description as well. Work on your game. Dre all day.